please do a video about gray rocking. I'm about to move back in with my parents. Oof, Karma, I wish you all of the best in that endeavor. I hope that it goes far better than you expect. I brought up gray rocking. Well, I've talked about it in the past in the context of dealing with toxic relatives, but I've also mentioned it recently in the context of how we interact with MAGA, particularly when we're looking at counter-protesters who show up, like all of the MAGA influencers who are showing up at ICE. Right, those MAGA streamers are hoping to get a rise out of folks in the crowd, both so that they can film content and make a bunch of money, but also because a lot of them are partnering with, are being sponsored by Kristi Noem and DHS. So they're trying to create propaganda footage that the regime can use. By the way, a quick tip, I don't know if folks outside of Portland are using this, but a really useful tip if a right-wing streamer shows up is to blast Disney music. Because guess what, y'all? That's copyrighted. There is nothing that you can post on YouTube or Instagram that will get flagged for a copyright violation quicker than Disney music. If they are trying to stream their antagonistic whatever MAGA influencers are doing on stream, if you play Disney music in the background, the platform will shut down their stream. It renders what they're doing completely not profitable. So it's not exactly gray rocking, but it is a very successful nonviolent direct action that you can take in response to MAGA influencers showing up at your protest. But let's specifically talk about gray rocking for a moment. I made a video months ago about how Donald Trump is America's narcissistic boyfriend, and we need to understand that a lot of the strategies that work in relationships with a narcissist work in terms of our response to what the Trump regime is doing. I know a lot of people have said part of the reason that this regime is so particularly traumatic for them is because it very much is triggering for people who've been in relationships with narcissists. There's too many similarities. It's the same playbook. There's multiple psychologists and psychiatrists who have openly said that Donald Trump fits all of the diagnostic criteria for malignant narcissism. And malignant narcissism is a particularly insidious form of narcissism that we see pretty commonly exhibited by dictators throughout history. So one of the things that the Trump regime is doing right now is they're trying to evoke a response that they want. They are trying to manipulate our emotions to get us to behave in a way that is useful for them. In particular, they're trying to get Americans to riot so that Trump can justify excessive crackdowns and implementation of his authoritarian tactics, putting military in our cities, violating more of our rights. He wants any footage, anything he can use to say, Americans are violent, Americans are rioting. So we see from ICE, we see from MAGA influencers, we see from rhetoric from the regime, we see from tactics of the regime, like holding back SNAP benefits, right? They think hungry people are going to riot. They are trying to manufacture a situation. They are using emotions to manipulate your behavior. This is not unlike what your toxic narcissistic ex or your parent may have done. They engage in this behavior called narcissistic baiting. They know they're pushing your buttons. They know they have an end goal of getting you to move totally into emotion mind, to disengage rational thought, and to flip out in a way that benefits them. Gray rocking is a specific strategy meant to counteract that, meant to make it so that you don't take the bait in narcissistic baiting. I know a lot of people don't like this phrase that's being used here in Portland and elsewhere. Our elected officials are saying, don't take the bait. And I've heard several fellow activists be like, I don't like that term. I don't love it either, but it's actually really accurate. What they are doing is engaging in narcissistic baiting tactics. It's really important that we don't play right into their hand. And gray rocking is a strategy that we can use to help protect us and to deprive them of a victory at the same time. The regime wants us to be impulsive, to act emotionally, to be out of control so that they can more easily manipulate us into taking actions that benefit them, right? That is ultimately what is happening here. So gray rocking is a way that we're like, the regime wants us to be impulsive and out of control. They want us to be highly emotional. No, we're going to do the opposite. We're not going to give them what they want. Let me really quickly here give you an example of what not to do. Okay, this is some right-wing pick-me influencer. I think she's the pooped her pants girl. I don't know. There's so many of these girls, I can't tell them apart. But she is trying to engage with protesters. And this is a prime example of what not to do.
You support ripping families apart.
Do you support abortion?
Yes.
Yeah, ripping families apart. Literally ripping children out of their mother's
If that's your logic
womb.
and that's why you don't support abortion, then you should not support ICE ripping families apart. If that's your logic. If that's going to be your logic.
What's abortion doing? What's abortion? Ripping children from their rightful place in their mother's womb. What's ICE doing? Sending people back to where they came from.
Okay, unfortunately, that goes on for quite a while, but you get the point here. So this is an influencer who is making content and making tons of money, making propaganda videos for the right, posting them on her social media platforms. She needs to present this narrative that people on the left, people in the pro-democracy movement in particular, people in this instance who are objecting to the illegality, the brutality, the cruelty of ICE, she's trying to present a narrative that we are all out of control. We are highly emotional. We are people who would, want to do violence. We are people who are hateful and terrible, right? She has her whole narrative. She's looking to make content to back up her narrative. She's using these protesters to make content. They are playing right into her hand. I know it can be so tempting. America just really loves debate culture. This is why I really hated the Unfuck America tour and all of the debate bro nonsense. That's never going to be the way out of this. Intellectual smackdowns and who can argue the most effectively. Believe me, if I'm in a room with you, I'm going to win that debate. I understand that's not how you change hearts and minds. That's not how you get out of this position that we're in now. All you're doing is platforming people on the right by being willing to engage with them, by being willing to debate them in a sphere where they have no interest in any kind of heartfelt conversation. They have no interest in absorbing what you're saying. All they're trying to do is pull one over on you. All they're trying to do is manipulate you and get you to look a fool for their audience. So that's not what we're going to do. Gray rocking is the complete opposite of getting in somebody's face and yelling at them and thinking you can debate them with facts and a logical argument or even an emotional appeal. No. Gray rocking is being bored, disconnected, disinterested. I think this is going to end up being a 2-part video because I want to lay out all of the different steps of gray rocking that I'm familiar with. I'm sure there are lots more. If you have other steps or strategies or specific interactions that you think would be helpful, please let me know in the comments. It's always good to have illustrations of what gray rocking looks like in real time, in real life scenarios. They're trying to get a rise out of us. Therefore, we're not going to give them a rise. We're bored. We're borderline unresponsive to their attempts to bait us. We're doing our own thing. In the context of a protest, this is all of the counter protesters screaming, trying to get you to engage, and all the protesters, we just turn over here and we sing a song together. We're not giving them any attention. We're doing our own thing over here. We're not taking the bait. We're going to sing. We're going to chant our chants. We're just going to keep marching. They desperately want attention. No, thank you. No, I'm not interested. The number one rule of gray rocking is that you try to avoid responding with any kind of emotion whatsoever. God bless those women. They're really trying. They're so passionate. They care about immigrants, but you're not going to change the mind of a MAGA influencer by shouting her down or getting emotional. She's not listening to your words, and she is not in a posture of being able to receive anything that you say. She's just content farming off of you. If she had come up to me at a protest, my response would have been, and then I'm just go and do my own thing. Or I turn and talk to my friend who's at the protest and be like, oh, do you see so-and-so over there? Oh yeah, I recognize her from the last Indivisible meeting. Cool, let's go find her. Do not respond with any kind of emotion. I do want to say here, in the next video, I will get into all of the steps of gray rocking. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll splice them both together. This requires a tremendous amount of emotion regulation. It's not easy. Gray rocking is not an easy skill. It is a really important skill. In practice, it can be very hard to do perfectly. And so I just want to encourage you to give yourself a measure of grace if sometimes you get a little bit escalated and you have to bring it back down. They are using psychological tactics that are very effective to try to get you to push straight into emotion mind and to abandon all of your rational thought and to flip out. They want you to behave emotionally and impulsively. So they are using tried and true tactics to do that. And it takes a lot of self-discipline to counteract that. And so I really encourage you, if you can at all, in your local groups or with friends, game out, role play these scenarios, practice. Like any kind of nonviolent direct action, any kind of nonviolent tactic or discipline you want to engage in, the more you can practice, the better. So please come back for part 2. And I want to talk specifically through the steps of gray rocking, conceptually and then some more concrete examples. Okay, more on gray rocking. What exactly is it and why is it such an important skill, discipline to learn? Not only for dealing with your narcissistic parent or your narcissistic partner, but also for dealing with counter protesters, MAGA influencers, ICE agents, and the Trump regime as a whole. So narcissists engage in this behavior called narcissistic baiting, and they use it in order to manipulate and control you. They are trying to push you into full emotion mind to get a rise out of you so that you act impulsively in a way that benefits them and harms you. Obviously, this is what the regime is trying to do by putting members of the National Guard in our cities, by having ICE escalate with nonviolent protesters. They're hoping that those protesters will riot. They need protesters to riot. And right now, we're not giving them what they want. Gray rocking is a strategy that we use to deny narcissists what they want. They want a big emotional response from us, so we're going to deny them a victory, and we're going to be really disengaged, unemotional. We're going to refuse to get worked up because what they need in order to advance their plans is for us to get worked up. And so we're going to be real blah, real bored. When I think of gray rocking, the two terms I think of are bored and disinterested. Narcissists need your attention. They're desperate for your attention, and they're desperate for you to have your emotions incredibly escalated because they know really well how to manipulate those emotions. So we're not going to give it to them. Okay, so let's talk through some of the concepts of gray rocking, and I'll try to remember to put in concrete examples as I go along. As I said in my last video, this technique takes a lot of self-discipline. It's really hard. It's really hard when people are using tried and true psychological tactics to manipulate your emotions. It's really difficult not to take the bait. So game out these scenarios, role play with your affinity groups, with your friends. Number one for the gray rock method is that you show no emotions. Practice not even a resting bitch face, but just a unbothered face. Also practice speaking slowly and in a real even keel, right? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. No. And do you see what I did there as well? Really short responses. We're not engaging. Gosh, it's really hard for me because I'm very verbose as a person. I also really love to debate. I really love to argue. So for me, this requires practice and self-discipline. I'm using very short, very vague responses while I am having my face devoid of emotions, and I'm trying to keep my voice as uninterested as possible. If you have a hard time not running your mouth, don't talk when you're gray rocking. Just stick to noises. Along with keep your responses short, you want to refrain from sharing any details at all. Don't describe your emotions. Don't tell them how you're feeling. Don't give them any details about yourself or why you're there. Don't explain your politics. Do not engage on any substantive issue, and don't share any details. The key word here I think of is mundane. Keep your conversation mundane. If you're forced into an actual conversation, you want to keep the interaction as boring as possible. Stick to really neutral, really boring topics. Only the weather. And maybe pre-list these ahead of time. Have some pre-scripted topics that you can pull out where you are not going to get worked up over them, and neither are your fellow protesters. Gosh, it really looks like that storm drain needs to get cleared of leaves. The shoe is kind of pinching my toes. I heard the barometric pressure is supposed to drop in the next couple of hours. Be aware that you can shift topics. Do not let the MAGA influencer, the narcissist in your life, control the topic of conversation. If you're forced to interact with them, you can just ignore their questions and you can shift the topic. Ask them questions about themselves. Where'd you get that jacket? Gosh, your hands look really cold. Did you forget your mittens today? Next thing to remember in gray rocking is that you never argue. Don't disagree with anything that they say. They are there to stir up debate so that they can make content. They are there to rile you up. They are going to say provocative things, and they want you to engage on the topic. They want to argue with you. Don't give them that. Whatever topic they bring up, don't state any of your opinions on that topic at all. This isn't exactly gray rocking, but it's a little bit connected. It's a strategy that I often use when people love to throw insults about me into the comments section, or they love to say something about me that I know is absolutely not true. They either heard something that was an outright lie, or they misinterpreted something that somebody else said, because if I have no haters, I'm dead. But I'll get real nasty comments, and my number one response, if I choose to respond at all, right? Because really, I should not respond. But if for some reason I have to get drawn into that and I have to engage, if somebody says something about me that's absolutely not true, I'll just say, okay, I know that you need to believe that. Okay. It doesn't impact me at all. It does not impact the course of how I live my life, the actions I need to take, at the protest that I'm at. If somebody says something wrong, I don't have to correct them to be okay. If somebody has a wrong opinion on the internet or at a protest, I don't have to correct them in order to be okay. This is where the like, okay, I see that you believe that. Okay. Just non-responsive, short answers, show no emotions, refrain from sharing your opinion or your feelings on the topic, do not argue with them. And then lastly, remember, disengage whenever necessary. If you can just leave, just fucking leave. Nobody is forcing you to stand there and argue with that MAGA influencer who's filming everything you say and she's going to put it on the internet in order to make a shit ton of money. You don't have to talk to her. Nobody is holding you in place. Turn away. Walk away. Remember when I talked about the 6 Ds of de-escalation? One of those is to distance yourself. Physically remove yourself from the situation where you are tempted to become emotionally dysregulated. Because when you are in a position with somebody who is MAGA, somebody working for the regime, somebody who is making content for the regime, and you get your hackles up, you let your emotions run you, you are now in a position where you are going to be manipulated. We're playing right into their hand. That is why when we hear electeds say, don't take the bait, we don't take the bait. I want to talk here really quickly about something that I saw at No Kings 2, where I was a safety marshal. There was this group of Proud Boys that showed up. There were like 10 or 11 of them, not very many. They made it sound like they were going to sweep into Portland with hundreds of Proud Boys and they were going to fuck up our protest with 60,000 people in it. So no, they showed up. They got at the very front of the march right before it began. They kind of filtered through, and there's this group called the Humble Boys that put themselves in between protesters and the Proud Boys. They make a physical barrier. And they were just kind of pushing these guys forward, right? And there was this group of protesters that were following along and engaging and shouting with the Proud Boys. And they said all of the nasty things to bait these women. You're so ugly. No dude would ever want to date you. Just like the worst kind of misogynistic incel shit that they were hoping would get a rise out of these women. And unfortunately, it was. They were swearing at them. They're waving their hands at them. They're trying to get up on top of them. And poor Humble Boys are standing there like, do. That's not what you want. These guys are there. They're called agents provocateur because they are trying to provoke you, right? They are trying to get a rise out of you. There is a specific reaction they want. Why would you give them what they want? Why would we give MAGA anything that they want? I talked about this in one of my No Kings 2 breakdown videos, but those of us that were safety marshals at the front of the march, we took all those people who got ahead of the fire truck and were following the Proud Boys and engaging with, giving them all of the attention that they wanted as they were filming and screaming and trying to provoke trying to manufacture some kind of violent scenario. We just said, hey, like, we're just going to stop. We're going to stop here. We are going to disengage and we're going to distance ourselves. We're just going to wait for the fire truck and the rest of the march to catch up with us because we got pushed ahead with all these chuddies and we don't want to be around that. We want to be with our people. So the 6 Ds of de-escalation and these gray rocking techniques, they fold in really nicely, but they rely on you having self-discipline. They rely on you practicing that emotion regulation, learning how to breathe, learning how to not take the bait, learning how to be really, really disengaged. Even if inside you're like, fuck these motherfuckers. You got to practice not showing any of that. And if you can't control yourself and keep very calm in the moment, disengaged, bored in the moment, then you need to distance yourself. Nobody is forcing you to follow those Proud Boys down the street and scream in their faces, even though you're right, even though your anger is righteous. Your anger is not productive in this moment. Your anger is not helping advance the cause. Rocking is a strategy that we can use not only to protect ourselves from MAGA, but to deprive them of a victory, to advance our cause as the pro-democracy movement. We are not in this to feed MAGA's drama. We are not in this to play into Trump's hand. We are in this to win. So our feelings come dead last after effective strategies. And that's why learning about gray rocking and how to implement it is so important.